First of all, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Fraser. I'm the head of partnerships here at Patchworks. So look, I know there's lots of kind of new partners that are kind of tuning into this today that might have just started to talk to us at Patchworks or start to experiment with the system. So look, today's format is just a really kind of simple question and answer with one of our key partners, Swanky. I'll let the guys introduce themselves in just a second. But for some context, we've been working with Swanky now for kind of 5 or 6 years. They were a very kind of early adopter of Patchworks. They've delivered multiple kind of clients on the system now, and they do some fantastic delivery work for us. So, I think the idea of this today is just to kind of have a kind of brief chat and get an understanding of kind of why Patchworks, but how Patchworks can kind of solve client issues. So, Essie, Ian, I'll throw it over to you to do a bit of an intro.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Fraser. So I'm Essie, commercial director. Plotted history in e-commerce, 20 years in doing platform migrations. Joined Swanky a year ago. For those of you who don't know Swanky, we're a Platinum Shopify partner. We're one of the first agencies in Europe to sort of adopt Shopify. We work with leading sort of fashion, beauty, high street retail brands, football clubs in helping transformation projects, and work alongside Ian. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I'm Ian. So I'm Director of Technology at Swanky. Been with Swanky for about 4 years, but been in the creative tech space for a good 15 years. Before I came over to the UK and joined Swanky, I originally ran my own boutique technical consultancy and specialized very much in enterprise software development. So, building back office systems, integrations, all of that from scratch. Worked in that space for a good while before deciding to move into e-commerce. And then, I've been specializing in Shopify for a good 8 years or so. That's me.
Great. Thanks, Ian. So look, let's kick things off. As I mentioned, we've been working together for kind of quite a long period of time now. You guys have been building integrations far longer than we've been working together. So I guess to begin with, Ian, what in the first place made you kind of look into a Patchworks partnership away from a kind of black box in-house integration that you might have been using before?
So I mean, I've come from that space. So I've built integrations from the ground up, maintained all of that infrastructure, and I've seen sort of both sides of the equation where you defer it to a third party to handle that, or you handle it in house, and you take on everything that entails. And I think a major pitfall for building your own integrations is that you end up needing to maintain the infrastructure and provide support services over a much longer term than just the initial build. So while at face value that might sound like a great business opportunity, the reality is that it just introduces a lot of overheads and liability considerations that really detract from your core business. It detracts from the focus of, for us as an agency, building value on top of SaaS platforms like Shopify. I like SaaS platforms precisely because, they have mature product roadmaps, they have scalability and support infrastructure all rolled in, and my team doesn't need to worry about building the basic building blocks of, moving data between systems. Those concerns are entirely removed from my team,
Right.
and allows me just to focus on the craft of creating innovative commerce.
Brilliant. And I guess just digging into that a little bit deeper, is there any what limitations or impact does it have on a client either building a kind of direct integration in-house over a piece of middleware?
So yeah, I mean, I think the term black box is really good, isn't it? Because it kind of nails it in one shot. And that term is really forged from, I think, like the tears of many entrepreneurs and engineers. I would say that like the key limitation is speed of execution and overall risk to successful project delivery. Yeah, when you're building custom, the sort of retention of knowledge and the resiliency is quite a limiting factor as well. Building these integrations, it sits with small engineering teams versus working with an iPaaS system where there's teams that support the service, and there's a lot more resiliency there. You're not just reliant on one back-end engineer, and you can't just have one back-end engineer when you're building these systems. You need two. You can't have a single point of failure. So yeah, I mean, the other limitations, like you've got to ensure that you've got that 24/7 support infrastructure there for your clients. You need to have appropriate SLAs in place. You need to think about scalability, disaster recovery, that kind of thing. There's a lot of things to factor in.
Great, thanks, Ian. So look, I just want to kind of dig a little bit into the delivery model of Patchworks. So for those of you that are new, again, just starting to kind of look at Patchworks as a platform, you'll probably know that Patchworks ourselves, we don't do any implementation. All of our implementation work is delivered via agencies like yourselves that kind of work and bill hours on the platform. So Essie, I just wanted to look at that delivery model, in practice. So when we look at a kind of a new client introduction, how do we look at splitting responsibility there, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think we're a trusted partner. That we can get on and have the conversation with the client ourselves, having done lots of projects. But I think we aim to understand at the early stage what the client's trying to achieve. Typically, we're brought in the early part of the conversation. So we're looking at a replatforming project, and we have a legacy ERP or a well-known ERP like NetSuite, and we try to ask that we can bring you into that conversation straight away, because often there's more than just the ERP. There's a new MarTech integration that needs to happen. Then there's a new alternative sort of point of sale integration. So I think bringing you into that conversation early and identifying the flows is always successful, rather than having lots and lots of meetings. So it's not always the case. Sometimes the client says to us that we want to start talking with you and then bring Patchworks in later. But the more we're aligned in those early meetings, the better. And we've been successful, I think, in that approach quite a few times with your teams on a few projects. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'll echo that. I think the sooner that we're both talking to a client at the same time, the more ingrained we get, and the more chance we've got of both winning that. So, so Essie, on a kind of broader scale, you guys work with a number of tech partners, right? So for you, Essie, in a commercial seat, what does a good co-sell look like with a partner?
Yeah, I think the co-sell is often not just the RFP that we receive. I think it's things we're doing, like the dinner that we're having in a couple of weeks. It's that, understanding business challenges, looking at people that are looking to do transformation projects. And I think one of the things I noticed, I come from a Salesforce Adobe world where, ERP integrations would take 4 months. And I've come into Shopify in the last year. And what it's been a delight for me as a commercial director to coming back with costs and budget is the fact that we can do an ERP integration with Patchworks in sort of 20 days, whereas it used to be 3-4 months. So I think it's still that educational piece, right? It's getting key stakeholders in the businesses understanding a bit about iPaaS and how that might differ to the way they do things currently with their direct integrations. So I think the co-sell or kind of work is not just the RFP, it's that constant thought leadership and bringing the right businesses into a room and having a conversation about challenges. And I think the event that we're doing in a couple of weeks, that dinner is perfect, because you've got football clubs, fashion brands, all talking around the same challenges. Great. So yeah, for me, that's the best relationship, where we're kind of constantly educating the market.
Cool, thanks, Essie. So look, you mentioned speed there, which is a perfect segue back to you, Ian, because something that we talk about all the time, either to clients or partners, is around speed to market, transparency for clients. So I guess, Ian, with your kind of developer header, what does having a kind of visible managed integration layer actually mean to you and the project teams?
I think it changes the whole dynamic. So when integrations are custom code buried somewhere in a code base, debugging is painful. Knowledge lives in one person's head. It's siloed, and there's inherent fragility there, really. With an open system, a visible system, everything is visible. You can see all the data flows. You can see where something's failed. You can trace a transaction, end to end. And it's an open system, so the client can see it. Other engineers can see it. Patchworks can, see it. All the patterns are familiar. Multiple engineers can step in, and as I said, the patterns are familiar, so they they understand what they're working with. So you build a lot more resiliency with this kind of open, visible system. Yeah.
Cool. And I guess, we see it a lot around clients want that visibility, right? They want to know when things work, but more importantly, when things don't work, why not? And how can we fix them quickly? So again, it's a bit of a leading question here, but what does that mean for clients in terms of that trust and transparency?
So like I said, they can see what's going on with their integrations. It's not a black box for them. They're not relying on one vendor to interpret what's going on in the system. They can see for themselves, and that helps build trust. There's no ambiguity about what's going on in the system and what's not working. And for major enterprises that have capable technical teams, that's kind of a non-negotiable. They need that visibility. They've got competent IT professionals that want to understand the integration layer, and they want to be able to tinker with it if they need to. It builds trust. Having an open system, you can't hide from it.
Great. So look, I think just again digging into that technical side a little bit more, and we look at the some of the systems that come with the client's tech stack. The majority of the time there's ERP involved, which obviously comes with its own complexities, and then quite often there'd be some kind of legacy older back office systems involved too. So what's your guys' kind of approach to that using Patchworks?
I think it's taken a lot of the complexity out of that kind of situation. Most enterprise clients are not starting from a clean sheet. They've got custom systems. They've got years worth of technical debt that have built up. They've got legacy ERP systems that have strange API interface layers, and it's quite a challenge to take that on. But I think the beauty of like an iPaaS like Patchworks is that you can kind of modernize components one at a time. You can do like incremental migrations of things. You got a very flexible integration layer, and you can keep some older systems that are really hard to decouple from your operational stack, and move some things onto newer systems. So you're able to keep an old ERP system running on a really modern front end storefront, and that's beautiful. It builds you a flexible foundation so that you can migrate other systems down the line. So it gives you a much longer run road to transform in a very careful manner.
Cool, thanks, Ian. So look, Essie, back over to you. I just want to talk a little bit more around the kind of the strategic partnership angle. So again, we've been working together for a really long time now. I guess what makes you view us as a strategic partner to Swanky, rather than just a kind of tool that you use?
Yeah, I think I think going back to that reference to the event, it's kind of bringing in the customer stories together. Where there's shared success. Where there's projects that we've done. It's also looking at not just things like ERP, looking at points of sale, looking at that whole retail experience, kind of thinking forward as to what some of the challenges might be for retailers that are looking at that transformation project, usually 2027. And I think it's the kind of cadence of meetings that we have. We catch up regularly. The market's it's a small ecosystem. Everyone sort of knows everyone, but we're constantly aligning on what our strategy is as a business, where we're going, where we're moving. At the moment, we're looking at sports as another vertical that we're sort of expanding in. We've got projects underway where it's not just the online experience. So I think it's kind of keeping that cadence of meetings with each other and sort of sharing what's happening with the roadmap. You've just got that updated NetSuite connector, telling us about that, letting us know so that we can go to our customers. Rather than being reactive, I think we're quite a proactive relationship, right? We kind of catch up every month and we sort of set the agenda for the quarter. I think that's the success of any partnership, right? It's making sure that we're all aligned. And I've been with Swanky for a year now, and I don't know how many opportunities we've been working on in the last year. It's quite a few, right? I mean, and we've won quite a few. So, I think we haven't even had those beers that we should be celebrating, but yeah.
We've got too much work to do, Essie, but we'll get there.
I know, exactly. Yeah, we will. Yeah.
But no, look, great. I think this is all around us being able to work together, to co-sell, to talk to clients together at the same time around a solution that essentially makes us both revenue at the end of the day. So, we're massively grateful for you guys as a partner, and we want to carry on kind of doing what we're doing. So look, I guess on that note, if we're looking at other agencies that might be looking at integration, looking at middleware, what would your advice be to an agency that might be looking at Patchworks over a custom build or development in-house?
I think I sort of think about it from the client side. I think being open and candid, there's probably there's more upfront work to be done. But if the customer is ultimately happy because they haven't got that, we keep talking about the black box. I think the fact that a customer can see the flows, where it's not breaking or not breaking, and understand where the challenges might be. A CMO is very keen on that project rather than just the CTO. So I always think about the merchant, because they're the customer, they're the joint customer for both of us. Think about their challenges, and just try to kind of immerse yourself in their world before you're doing a project.
Great, thanks. Now look, I think I'm just going to kind of ask one more question now, just to close things off, and we can wrap up. But Ian, I guess back for you. I guess what is the biggest advantage of using Patchworks?
Big question. Yeah. I think just the pure peace of mind, really. Coming from a background of building complex integrations and having to manage infrastructure and support and consider all of the sort of liability considerations behind that, and the security and the scalability and all of the kind of headaches of that kind of complex infrastructure management. I think just having the peace of mind of having an integration platform that I know is proven, I know is very flexible, one that I can very confidently benchmark, how complex an integration is, and I know it's well supported, and there's really great specialists behind it, and it's not dependent on one engineer's knowledge. There's great resiliency there. I think that peace of mind for me and for clients of knowing that it can scale, it can support multiple systems. It's super flexible, and the uptime is fantastic. It gives me pure peace of mind. And I think being able to just confidently scope an integration is actually such a big factor, especially for an agency. When you're building these systems from scratch, there is so much to unpack and there is so much room for error in scoping things. And this is really where I've seen a number of transformation projects fall down, is the integration of ERPs. It's the riskiest, hardest part. And now working with Patchworks, it feels like that's kind of the easiest part. I know how long it's going to take. It's 2 to 3 months. I know these systems, we've integrated them, and I'm pretty confident about integrating strange ones that I've not done before, because it's quite straightforward to set up a new connector, and these systems aren't all that different. So it just gives me a lot more confidence in terms of understanding what integration is, and that support thing. I don't have to worry about support calls at 2 a.m. That's great peace of mind for me.
Great. Cool. Well, look, Ian, Essie, thank you very much. I think we'll wrap it up there. So for those of you that have kind of signed up to this and that are listening to this, we'll send some collateral over afterwards. If you want to kind of explore Patchworks any deeper, please reach out to your partner manager or myself, and we can set up some further calls. But Ian, Essie, thanks very much for your time, and we'll speak soon. First of all,